Mm-hmm.
Well, while we're doing this, I'll just say I put in a order on our virtual vegan marketplace last weekend, kind of a flurry of online vegan shopping for the Boston Veg Food Fest. And so
Well,
all
while
this
we're
week,
doing
every
this, I'll
day I'm
say
getting these packages of this wonderful vegan stuff in the mail. It's been amazing.
I love getting surprise packages in the mail. That's great.
Yeah, and I normally don't order online, so this is a new thing for me to every day be having some vegan surprise to open up.
That's very cool. All right, I have confirmed all of our streams are now live. So I will go ahead and start and stop sharing my screen and do an introduction. We'll get this rolling tonight. So let me go ahead and do that. And go ahead and change this to speaker view. Good. Let's get this moving. Good evening, everybody. I'm Clayton Cheever. I'm the Assistant Director at the Thomas Crane Public Library in Quincy, Massachusetts. As you may judge from my surroundings, I am not in the Thomas Crane Library this evening. I am joining you from my home. I hope you're all someplace comfortable and safe and warm, that you have something nice, a nice beverage nearby, maybe a little something to snack on, because I always get hungry during Colin's programs. It's going to be a great program tonight, and I'm really looking forward to it. If you haven't joined us before for any of Colin's programs, you are really in for a treat. He will be showing several recipes, and we have them written out. You can actually find a link right now. If you went out to the Thomas Crane Library website, on the home page, there's a little blog post on the left side of the page, but I'll make it even easier and put it in the chat here in Zoom so that you can follow along with the recipes there. I will also put a link to the chat in YouTube and Facebook. We are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, and this meeting is being recorded so that we can make it available for future viewing. So that way, if there's something you want to share with your friends, if you want to go back and review it, you can always come back to our YouTube channel, or you can check it out on Facebook. We're also partnering with Quincy Access Television, who will be doing a little post-production, and then you can actually watch a polished version. You can watch it live on television as it comes around on their scheduling cycle, or you can watch it on demand on their website, and we also make it available to that nice finished product on the library YouTube channel as well. So there are lots of ways to see what we're up to. I just saw some strange notifications, so I'm just going to make sure, yeah, we're good. I don't know what it was, but we're all good. So let's see, want to just say thank you to the Friends of the Library for helping make this happen. The Friends of the Library are just an awesome organization. They are membership supported. They also traditionally get support from by running a used bookstore in the library, but it's been closed since March. So I encourage you to please go out to our website at thomascreenlibrary.org/friends, or if you just look at the bottom left of our webpage, you can find a link to them. You can learn all about them, and you can even become an official uppercase friend of the library yourself. We have some other great programs coming up. I encourage you to go out to that website and look at our calendar. One that I really want to draw your attention to, because I'm just so excited, is a live, it's a recording of a concert in our Richardson room. If you've never visited the library, you really should come take a look, and we're able to open things back up. But of course, because of the pandemic, we're keeping everybody as safe as we possibly can. Which means we can't host a live concert. We were actually in the middle of a concert series in March when everything closed down. And it breaks my heart. We actually had a brand new piano that was being featured in every one of those concerts in March. Well, one of the performers actually in that series, Alyssa Kwan, approached me. She runs a music school in Quincy, and asked me if she and a partner, Julie Ryman, could come and do a performance at the library in a safe performance where it would just be the two of them, someone from QATV, Mark, who shot it with the cameras and the mics, and then I helped as the host and provided some audio tech. We then did like a multi-camera shoot. Mark put it together, and we're going to be airing it live for the first time next Thursday night, 1 week from tonight. You can catch it. We'll be having a conversation actually with Julie and Alyssa live on Zoom. We'll be broadcasting it on YouTube and Facebook, and you can catch it on QATV as well. So if you like classical piano and cello, it's going to be an amazing concert. I saw it live, and I know that put together, it's going to be fabulous. The theme is music in the mind. They're actually taking composers that have struggled with psychotic issues that are just known to have had various mental challenges, but yet still made incredible music. because it's all of us can have times when we're not feeling at our tops. All of us can have, I think, can kind of relate to being psychologically and mentally stressed these days. So it's a good reminder that incredible beauty can also come from these times. So tonight, let's feed, your soul and figure out how we can nourish your belly, and then you can come back and continue feeding your soul and your mind in a week. So I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know that everybody's very excited to hear from Colin, but we have been doing these for some time, and we've been doing them in partnership with the Boston Vegetarian Society. And it is my real honor and pleasure to invite Evelyn, who is the head of BVS, to say a few words before we kick off with Colin. So Evelyn, welcome. I'm going to hand the mic to you, and I'll duck out of the way and just be watching the chat streams. Good evening.
Hey, Clayton, it's great to be with you and with Colin and everybody. So I hope that if you're looking forward to a vegan Thanksgiving that's already made and very sumptuous at an amazingly bargain price, you will participate in the BVS Vegan Thanksgiving this year, which will be take home. We usually have it at Red Lentil on the Monday and Tuesday nights before Thanksgiving. We will be doing that again, but it will be take home style, so you can have it safely at home. But it's going to be that incredible banquet for $21. Just amazing. So yes, Phyllis, I agree. So, be in touch with us, and you do have to sign up in advance for it, so that they can be prepared with enough staff and food. But now I'm eager to introduce Colin, who is now the author of 2 published cookbooks. His latest one just came out and is now available on Amazon. There's a link to it in the announcement that I and the library sent out. Smoothies that taste like Girl Scout cookies. We did that topic with Colin a couple of months ago, and now he has it in a cookbook. And also his bestseller cookbook, The Healthy Vegan Cookbook, also available through Amazon or through his publisher, Vegan Publishers. Tonight, Colin is eager to share with us Healthy for the Holidays. So welcome, Colin.
All right, thank you, Evelyn. That's you're making me wish that I lived back in Massachusetts again to go to get some food at Red Lentil. This is with COVID happening. It's such a strange time, definitely to have Thanksgiving. And, Clayton and I were talking before we came on, my family and my wife's family they're asking, should we get together? What do we do? How do we do this? And, I think we're all just kind of making it up as we go along. So if you are going to be eating in a small group, or just a person or two, then all of these things still apply. We had actually talked ahead of time about having just some tips about if you are eating, if you're a vegetarian or if you're vegan, if you're just trying to eat healthy. It can be especially challenging if you're eating with family who may not be vegetarian or vegan. And so we did have some tips that we just wanted to talk about to try and kind of help you navigate through those situations. I've certainly had to do many of these things myself over the years. So we can kind of go through that list, and then we'll get started with the cooking. So one thing is to let your family know ahead of time if you are vegan or vegetarian, if you have any dietary issues, just so that there are no surprises. And also to make sure that they know if you were vegan, make sure that they know what that means. Because, when I was first vegan, I went to visit with my mom, and she made this delicious corn chowder with bacon in it. And she said, well, but bacon is vegan, right? I'm sure it would have been delicious. I didn't have it. So, sometimes not everybody knows. Bring your own dishes. So usually what I do for Thanksgiving, not going to be this year, but usually what I do is I like to have 2 Thanksgivings. So I'll do a Thanksgiving with my family, and I'll bring a dish or 2 to that, something that I'm going to really enjoy eating. And that was really just time spent with family and visiting with them. And then I have, a second Thanksgiving, usually with my vegan and vegetarian friends. And so that, there we can really have, a huge banquet of wonderful food and share all that. Again, unfortunately not able to do that this year, but normally, sort of like, having multiple Christmases, having multiple Thanksgivings is fantastic. So another thing you could do is to be the host of a vegan Thanksgiving. Invite your family to that, and or like I said, you can split between Friendsgiving and family Thanksgiving. You can challenge your family to veganize favorite dishes. So usually, so many of the dishes that we have for Thanksgiving, outside of people eating turkey, so much of the time, those things, if you just substituted one or two ingredients, then you could pretty easily make it vegan. So if you have some family members who are game and want to try it out, then, that's a great opportunity. Also, I put this: don't take the weight of the vegan universe on your shoulders. If you are the one lone vegan or vegetarian in a family or a group for Thanksgiving, and you start getting peppered with questions, then, really all you need to say is just, it works well for me and I feel great. It makes me feel great. So, you don't have to be able to answer all of the questions, even if, people, I've been vegan for 25 years and people still ask me questions that I had never heard of before. And, a lot of the times I'll have to say, I don't know the answer to that. I have to get back to you. Certainly you don't have to know everything about nutrition and all of those issues. So you don't have to answer for everybody. Just say it works well for me. And, the last thing that I found is make an amazing vegan dish. So if you have a recipe that you've made at home a number of times and you really like it, and you think it's really great, then go ahead and bring that. And a lot of times I've been amazed at people at the Thanksgiving table who normally, if they know it's vegan, then they don't want to touch it. But there it is on the table, and they try it, and suddenly it becomes the favorite dish on the table, and I have to hurry up and have some myself before other people eat it all. So, when it's the only thing I can eat. So just wanted to share those tips. Like I said, unfortunately, not going to be able to put some of those tips into action this year, but it is what it is. So. I have the Healthy Vegan Cookbook here. So a lot of the recipes that we're doing tonight are going to be from the book. And let's see. So let's see. I just wanted to say I've been vegan for 25 years. I have two boys who are 18 and 21, and they've always been vegan as well. So, always trying to come up with new healthy and delicious recipes, especially, try and get my teenagers to eat healthy. And, when you have a Thanksgiving, especially, normally you have a big meal at Thanksgiving, and, for the next couple of days, you feel, super stuffed. And, if you are vegetarian or vegan, sort of the perspective that I try to take in my cooking is using whole food, healthy ingredients. And, I don't really use any oil. I don't use butter, things like that, or margarine or anything like that. So, what I found is if you're eating whole food, plant-based diet, and you're using those whole food, healthy ingredients, then you can still have a delicious meal like Thanksgiving, and you're not going to feel super stuffed for the next couple of days and, feel like you can't move. So, you hear stories about people having some Thanksgiving dinner and then go for a jog afterwards. This will help you do it. So we're going to make 3 recipes today and talk about a couple others. There's really a lot of ground we could cover. So because I'm not actually going to be baking this, unfortunately, I can't share it with you today. So I will just kind of put things together, talk about things, and then I will bake it all afterwards. And, you know, nobody cares about me actually baking it in person. So I'll just go over everything. So the first recipe that we're going to make today is going to be the lean and mean green bean casserole. So, you know, sometimes people say like, green bean casserole, that's really boring. This is very good. I love this recipe. I've made it many, many times. Clayton, I think you've had it before. So
I have enjoyed many servings of this, Colin. This is, yeah, some definitely good stuff. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you. So we'll kind of talk about different ingredients and, you know, again, trying to sort of take a whole food, plant-based spin on things and, you know, really cutting down on, trying to cut down on how much oil people use. So this one, the base of it is going to be, of course, green beans. We have about 4 cups of green beans cut into 3-inch segments. So you can do the frozen ones. You know, of course, the fresh is going to taste better, but if you cut them up into like, you know, 2 or 3-inch pieces and steam those ahead of time, this is going to go a lot better. So you've got the green beans, and to that, I'm going to add, let's see, 2 cups of, normally I'd add 2 cups of button mushrooms, roughly chopped. My sweetie's not really a big fan of mushrooms, so me personally, I'm going to skip the mushrooms, so I'm not in the doghouse tonight. So skip that. I'm going to put in 1 poblano pepper. So one of the things that makes this really so good. Poblanos are, I wouldn't say that they're a mild pepper, but they're not really super hot spicy usually. I'm not a huge, I don't have a high tolerance for spice like you do, Clayton, but this one's got some bite to it. So I chop that up, and just make sure you don't put the seeds in it unless you really want the spice. So there's the.
You can put extra seeds in mine. Just put them over to the side. It'll be good.
One thing I'm going to put in here is a dash of liquid smoke. So usually you find this in a plastic bottle. I broke the bottle actually by mistake once, so I have it in the jar. But basically liquid smoke is water that's been infused with a smoke. It has a smoky flavor. So I'm just going to add a dash into here. And then I'm going to add a dash, even though I don't think the recipe says it, I am going to add a dash into the sauce. So we have the mix of the vegetables here, and then I'm going to make a sauce to pour over that. So, you know, rather than use, you know, get into using flour, which is more of a processed, concentrated product, in these recipes, I'm going to use water and nuts, and just kind of skip the flour. In this case, I'm going to put in about a cup or cup and a half of water here. So I'm going to make this sauce in the blender. This is a Vitamix, but you don't need that. You can use a NutriBullet or Ninja or something like that if you have that. So there's the water. I'm going to put in some nuts. So it depends on how creamy you want this to be. You can put in somewhere between half a cup and a cup of cashews. So, you know, that is a lot of calories, definitely. But, you know, unless you're me, I don't recommend eating this whole thing in one sitting. So you are not eating an entire cup of nuts in one sitting. So no need to sweat it. All right. And I am using raw cashews, or you can use roasted, unsalted cashews. I don't recommend using the salted ones just because you want to be able to control how salty you make the meal. So next I'm going to put in a tablespoon of tamari, which is here. Tamari is very similar to soy sauce, but to me it has kind of a deeper and richer taste to it. It's also sort of more of a pure fermented soy product versus soy sauce, which is a mixture of fermented soy and grains and other things like that. The next I'm going to put in is, let's see, I put in some Better Than Bouillon. So this is what I like to use as a bouillon source. This is like a paste you can see here. In the recipe, it calls for better than bouillon mushroom mushroom flavor. I was just told that that is not vegan now. I'm pretty sure when I wrote the book 4 years ago that it was, so maybe they changed the recipe or something. So in this one, I'm just going to use the vegetarian version. So put in about a tablespoon of that. You could certainly use bouillon cubes if you have that, or bouillon powder if you like to use that instead. I just really like the taste of this particular bouillon paste. And to that, I have half a teaspoon of black powder and then a teaspoon of sea salt. And as I usually point out, the salt that I like to use is real salt. I don't get paid by them or anything, but if you do use salt in things, then I definitely recommend the real salt. It's really got the highest mineral concentration of any kind of salt on the market. And that might be something that it might be a little bit harder to find. You can get it at Whole Foods. You can order it online. Health food stores usually have that, but it's harder to find in a regular supermarket. So there's the salt and the black pepper. So I'm going to add a dash of the liquid smoke because the smoky flavor really makes this dish taste unique along with the poblano peppers. So I'm just going to take a minute and blend that up, just make sure it's nice and smooth. And so Clayton, you want to talk or?
Sure,
Whatever.
I can talk a little bit so we mask it. So if people have any questions as you go, you can certainly use the chat here in Zoom or on Zoom on YouTube or Facebook. We've had a couple of folks join us since I shared the link for the recipes. So I am sharing that again in the chat right now. So if you want to follow along, Colin, I know that you were a little concerned whether or not that you had included when you put the recipe together the liquid smoke, and I checked, it is in the recipe that we've got. So that's awesome. Awesome. If folks were confused, I think you said black powder when you were talking about adding the salt. I assume you meant the black pepper.
Black pepper, yep.
Yeah. So that was probably clear to everybody.
Colin, does it change the flavor if you use roasted cashews rather than raw?
I don't think so. I usually prefer just to use raw nuts most of the time, just so that it's a little bit less processed. But you could certainly use roasted. In this recipe, it's not going to make any difference, I don't think.
There's another question, which is if you've ever tried using miso as a substitute for the bouillon.
Oh yeah, you could do that. As far as miso goes, one of the things people really love about miso is the probiotic properties. Really helps gut health a lot. If you are going to, as a casserole, you bake this, it's going to put it under high heat and it's going to destroy the probiotic properties of the miso. So, from a taste standpoint, definitely it's still going to give it a nice flavor as well. But you'd miss out on the probiotic benefits. Not that this has probiotic benefits, but all right. So I have it in the mixing bowl. I'm going to go ahead and add the sauce to that. It is pretty liquidy. A lot of that is going to bake off in the oven. So it's very liquidy in here. And so I just kind of mix all that together here. And then put that in the casserole dish here. So pour that in. And then for a topping for this, I like to use a mixture of crispy fried onions. So a lot of times with this in the recipe, I do talk about using an air fryer. You can do that. That's a great alternative. You can use just one teaspoon of oil to be able to make crispy fried onions rather than the deep fried ones. This is a situation where, if you say, well, that's just one more step that's going to take me a while, just use the crispy fried onions. It's okay. But, if you're really trying to make it as healthy as possible and you do have the time to be able to devote to that, then I do have the instructions in here for making the crispy fried onions with an air fryer. That will work as well. So the fried onions, and then also I do have a recipe for bacony vegan bits in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook. So usually what I do for that is I use a package of tempeh. So tempeh is a fermented soy product. So basically it comes as a rectangle, and you can I put it in a food processor, and that just kind of breaks it up into little crumbles, little bits. And then I'll bake those in the oven at like 300 degrees or so for about 10 minutes. Take it out, just stir it around, bake it for another 10 minutes. And then to that I would add about a tablespoon of tamari, just to give it a nice salty flavor. And then I would use maybe about quarter of a teaspoon of the liquid smoke, half a teaspoon, whatever you want, but quarter teaspoon. Mix that together and then put that back in the oven for another 10 minutes. And it's going to make what's very similar to bacon bits and flavor. You get that nice salty and smoky flavor. So that's in the book as well. So this is a mixture of the crispy fried onions and then also the bacon bits. So I'll sprinkle those on top. Depending on whether you cooked the green beans ahead of time, you would need to cook this for a while. First, in the recipe, I think I say 20 minutes, and then you put the crispy fried onions on at the end. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and put the topping on and then put it in the oven. Let's see. I have to make sure that I follow my own recipe here for about 8 minutes. This will really kind of brown the top if you put it in for too long. So I'm just going to sprinkle that over here. And this one I am going to be enjoying with my sweetie. Just the two of us.
As you've been talking, I've learned that we're going to be making that in our house, I know, very shortly.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it looks good.
Great. So that one I will bake later, because I don't need to do that right now and bore everybody with all of that. So I'm just going to take a minute and switch over to the next recipe. While I do that, I just want to say, if you're vegan or vegetarian, you try different products. My favorite is usually the tofurkey. Some people don't like the texture of it, or they say it's kind of rubbery. This is sort of like one of the originals, right? It's been around a really long time. I usually have had this for Thanksgiving for years and years and years. So to me, it sort of has a nostalgia to it. So, there are different roasts now, vegetarian roasts. There's Trader Joe's has one, Whole Foods has one. Gardein has one that you can find at regular supermarkets. And so that, it's interesting because they all sort of have different textures and different flavors. So I definitely would encourage people to try different ones and see what you like. If you just try the tofurkey and you say, I don't like that, then all the rest of them are different, or they all have unique properties. So just want to shout out, I love tofurkey. So this recipe I'm gonna make is rich and delicious mushroom gravy, which in the case of tonight is going to be rich and delicious gravy without mushrooms. All right, so we have, we have 1 cup of chopped white onion, which I water sauteed. So we have that here. And let's see, the button mushrooms will have to be virtual mushrooms. We pretend that they're there. And then also I put the garlic in with that as well. So this one, we're going to make the sauce of the gravy, and then we add the onions in afterwards so that it's got some texture to it. All right.
May I interject that nutrition expert, Dr. Joel Furman, who's one of the vegan MD nutrition guys,
Mhm.
recommends having 1 button mushroom a day for their health properties. He really feels that mushrooms are a health promoting food. So unless, like your wife, you don't like mushrooms, they're a good thing to see in a recipe.
All right. Well, I will share that with her, but I don't think it's going to change her mind. Thank you. All right. So for this one, I'm going to start with a base of 3 cups of vegetable broth. So I have that here. This is just hot water that I put together with some of the Better Than Bouillon paste. So, you can use just regular bouillon that you get in the box, but, depending on which kinds you get, which kind of bouillon that you like to use, sometimes it can be super salty if you get the kind in the carton. So at least with this, if you use the paste or powder, you can control how much of the salt goes into that if that's something that you are watching. So there's the water. And so with this one, I have in the recipe, you have the option of using flour. So usually in a gravy, you would use flour to kind of thicken it up. So as an alternative to that, you could use nuts like cashews, which have some fat in them that helps to make it creamy as well. So what I would say is if you wanted to use some whole wheat flour, which is what is in the recipe, then you would use 3 cups of vegetable broth. If you were going to use, instead of the whole wheat flour, if you wanted to not use the whole wheat flour, you could use like 1/3 of a cup of the cashews, and then cut the vegetable broth from 3 cups down to 2, just so that you're not making it so watery. All right, because without the flour, it's not going to thicken it up. So just use less
I
liquid
assume you could use
ingredients.
a brown rice or an oat flour or something if you wanted to avoid the gluten too.
Yeah,
Would that
yeah,
work? Yeah.
yep, you could do that. Next ingredient is going to be, in the recipe, I call for 1/4 cup of dry red wine. That really gives it a really rich, deep flavor. Anytime that I do classes for public libraries, they always prohibit me using any alcohol. So I could say that this is cranberry juice. We could all believe that. Um,
I think
so
as long as you're in your home and you give consent, Colin, we are good. So as the librarian in charge tonight, I have no problem. And anybody who wants to have a glass of wine, you could even enjoy a glass while you're watching this program. So
there you go.
no
All
problem
right.
with me.
Well, Clayton gave you permission, so no. So no, I make a joke, but I do want to point out, if you don't want to use wine, if you don't want to use any alcohol, one alternative to that is you could use cranberry juice or pomegranate juice as well. That also tastes fantastic in this. So I'm gonna put that in, cranberry juice, maybe. And also I have the 1/3 or 1/2 cup of cashews. I'll put that in. So because I'm making this a little different from the printed recipe, because I'm not using the whole wheat flour, I'm just going to use the cashews instead. And like I said, instead of 3 cups, I use about 2 cups of the water there. And then also once I'm done, then I would put this in a saucepan and just kind of cook off a little bit more of the liquid as well. So let's see, we've got 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. So that really gives it a nice kind of a bit of a cheesy flavor. It adds a great nutrition to it as well. Let's get your B12 in here as well. And so this might be something that would be harder to find in a regular supermarket. It is getting easier to find nutritional yeast in regular supermarkets. People are writing to me that they've spotted them in different supermarkets now, but definitely Whole Foods would have it. Trader Joe's has it. So I'm going to add that in there. There we go. And this is a case where using fresh herbs really makes a huge difference in terms of taste. Using the fresh herbs are going to be stronger and it just tastes so fantastic. If you have the dried herbs and you want to use those instead, that's okay. That's certainly fine. But actually, in the book, this is one of the mistakes that I found after I sent it for publishing, because it called for this recipe in the book has that tablespoon instead of teaspoon, and that is a lot of herbs. So teaspoon, I corrected it for the for the recipes here. So I have 1 teaspoon of fresh thyme, 1 teaspoon of rosemary, and then 1 teaspoon of sage mixed in here. So it makes this gravy taste really good. And I have 2 tablespoons of the tamari as well. So tamari also, it's a natural source of sodium, so you don't have to use as much salt there. All right. And then I have a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and then I have a teaspoon of the real salt here. So go ahead and blend that together here.
All right. Well, I get to do my little talk while you do the blending. We have one of our guests this evening was, as we were talking about mushrooms earlier, shared that that they had some experience with macrobiotics and believed that a half of a dried shiitake in miso every day is good for kidneys. So if you want to nourish your, feed your kidneys, that's some advice from folks. And I think it just sounds delicious. I'd love to have a good cup of miso soup with a shiitake in it every day. That just sounds great. So, Colin, I wonder, I've heard in various places, and I can't remember where I first heard, that you should always add nutritional yeast kind of late in a recipe, that it loses some of its nutritional qualities if you heat it up too much. So it's better to kind of stir it in. Like I know if I'm making like a nutritional yeast cheesy sauce, I always like make the roux and build it up. And then after I turn off the heat, that's when I add the nooch. Have you heard that before, or is that something I made up somewhere?
I have not heard that before.
Okay. Well, I have no idea if that's good advice or not. So.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in the gravy, the liquid, in with the onion and the garlic that's already been cooked. And I would put a cover on this, shake it up, and then put it in the pan, put it in a saucepan, and just heat it up for 5 or 10 minutes. Just whisk it every minute, and it's just gonna release a little bit more of the liquid here, so it's gonna thicken it up, so it'll be a nice thick gravy, depending on how long you want to cook it for, and also that those fresh herbs, it'll give the herbs a chance to heat up and cook a little bit, so that you're not having just straight fresh herbs. It's like I said, it's pretty strong. So that is the gravy. And that, I love to have that on potatoes, and I just pour this on everything. It's so good. All right. Just rinse the Vitamix out here. We're going to use it one more time. Make a different casserole. And I'm just going to move my last tray over here. Go. And these things out of the way, because I have part of the casserole already made. The magic of virtual classes. That's wonderful. All right, so this one is going to be, this is using the golden cheesy sauce from the Healthy Vegan Cookbook. And what I like to do with the sauce is to use this as a sauce over broccoli rice casserole. So also, I think, Clayton, we may have shared many servings of this as well in Thanksgiving's past. This is one that I always make and bring for Thanksgiving dinner with family and friends. And this is one that, with my family who is not vegetarian or vegan, they love this. They love to have this. Who cares if it's vegetarian or vegan? It just tastes really good. So as long as I'm not constantly pointing out, hey, this is vegan, you just ate something vegan, then nobody cares. So
the real trick with this is just making sure you show up early enough so that it's not all gone when you get there. That's the real trick.
Yeah. So as as a base for this, I have some cooked. I like to use brown basmati rice because it gives it a really nice nutty flavor. And so in this recipe, that is 2 cups of uncooked brown, or 2 cups of dry rice that's been cooked. So I use that as a base for the casserole, and then I put on lots of broccoli. So I like to use lots and lots of broccoli for this, so that there's plenty in each bite. So I'll spread that on the top here. Go. And then I'm going to make the sauce that I pour over that. This one is also one of my kids' favorites. You know, they don't like to have to wait until Thanksgiving to be able to have this. So sometimes I get this as a special request. Hey, can you make broccoli rice casserole for dinner tonight? So happy to do that. So the sauce for this one is the golden cheesy sauce from the Healthy Vegan Cookbook. Again, this one you can use flour. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. Actually, when I wrote the cookbook 4 years ago, I was still using some flour, but at this point, I just kind of got rid of that because, again, it's a pretty processed product. You know, it's not to say that I don't, you know, occasionally have, you know, some bread or something, but you know, for the food that I cook for myself in my home, then I usually don't like to use flour or bread because it's processed. So in this case, I'm going to use about 2 cups of water instead of the 3.5 because I'm not going to be using the flour here. But if you were, then you would use 3.5 cups of water and then the, let's see, 1/2 cup of the flour. So about 2 cups of water for this, since I'm not using the flour. So there's some water. And I'll put in about 1/2 cup of the raw cashews here. Fun fact, cashews are never really raw that you buy, even if they say they are, because cashews actually have a bit of a toxin in them that if you did actually eat it fully raw, then you would get sick from that. So even the raw cashews, they do cook them to a minimum just to be able to get rid of that toxin so that nobody gets sick eating them. So fun fact. All right, 2 tablespoons of the tamari. And I have a mix of different spices. So it's 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. You can use 1 teaspoon of onion powder and then 1 teaspoon of the salt, the Redmond real salt that I like to use. And then there's 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric as well. The turmeric is going to really help with the yellow color, especially if you put this in a saucepan and you just kind of thicken it up if you wanted to do that. Or if you just pour it right over and it heats up, then that really kind of activates the bright yellow color of the turmeric. So I'll put all that in here. Of course, turmeric has fantastic health properties as well. And then we're going to put in 1 cup of the nutritional yeast. Yeah. So the nutritional yeast really gives us a delicious cheesy flavor. And I'm going to go ahead and blend that up.
All right, and when the blender runs, it's my time to do a little song and dance. So if anybody has any questions as we're going along, I certainly encourage you to put those in the chat. I actually we were looking for nooch in our house. I started calling nutritional yeast nooch, and I found a whole bunch of different sources online, and it really ranges in price. It's crazy. I've had, sometimes you go and you find a little container and it's like, $12, whatever, for like 12 ounces or something. It's insane. I was able to get a pound for, I think the cheapest it was like $12 a pound, which was pretty good. It came in a big package. I actually had to find something to store it in so I can shake it on things. I like to just have it on the table, to put on pizza or popcorn is a really great thing to do with nutritional yeast. I bet you lots of people here have got experience and could share their favorite things to do with it. So,
yeah, popcorn is a big favorite for me. I love to use it for that. Yep. Yeah, if you buy it in bulk, then it's so much cheaper than if you buy it in the little shaker or something like that. And it does keep in the pantry. It keeps for a really long time, probably indefinitely. I don't even know, but
Have you noticed any difference? And I've never really been able to tell the difference from one brand of nutritional yeast to another either. Have you?
I haven't. Not really. No, I mean, the only difference that I ever see at the health food store is getting the large flakes, or, like the stuff that I usually get is more of like a powder. It's not the larger flake kind, but I haven't really noticed any difference in taste myself.
There's been a couple of questions. One, as we're talking about nutritional yeast on popcorn, is how do you get it to stick? And one of the benefits, I love, like actually, licking my finger and enjoying it on the bottom of the popcorn bowl after the popcorn's gone. But that's the stuff that didn't stick. I don't know if you have any tricks. I find that if I put, probably the most crunchy thing that I learned to do is actually, instead of putting any fat on the popcorn, I'll put like some Bragg's or something, and then the nutritional yeast will stick. Like you just moisten the popcorn a little bit with that, and it sticks. You can also do it with like coconut oil is something that I've used before, or margarine.
That's a great idea.
Or something.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have any tricks that you like to use.
I will show one thing that I do sometimes is I'll use the cooking oil, the olive oil spray. And that's, as an alternative to using the oil to cook the popcorn in, and it absorbs all that. If you just use a little bit of spray, shake it up a couple of times, and then use the nutritional yeast, and it's going to stick to that as well. And it's just a way of using much, much less oil than you would otherwise. So you can do that as well.
And then somebody else asked, when you're making this dish, how much broccoli do you use? How do you know, like, how much for your, do you usually just use one head? Do you have a kind of a general rule? Is it whatever kind of broccoli you have in hand?
I like to use at least one bunch of broccoli, just as much as possible. Love it. The thing is, you just want to make sure that when you cut it up, you just cut it up into small pieces, so that when people are eating this, they're not like getting a big chunk of broccoli. I don't think that's very the most appetizing. So
how much of the stem do you use? I always get in trouble with my family. I always take as much of the stem as I think I can get away with, and then I just try to dice it up really small and hide it into the florets.
But there's full stem in here.
All right, nice. Validation. Awesome.
That's right. So like I said, you can thicken this up first in a saucepan if you wanted to, just to get some of the liquid out, or you can just bake it off as well in the oven. That's fine. So I'm going to pour the sauce over here, and there we go. And then I add, on top of that, I like to add some pecan pieces here. So just kind of sprinkle those over the top. And then on top of that, I like to sprinkle some of the smoked paprika, just because of a delicious flavor. I hardly ever use regular paprika. I almost always use the smoked paprika because to me it just tastes so good. So just kind of sprinkle that over a little bit, just give it a nice little bit of color. And so that is broccoli rice casserole. Yeah, I am happy to have that. I'm going to have to wait a little while once I put it in the oven tonight to have it, but I'm going to have a late dinner and I'm going to have a lot of that. So,
how much rice did you use as the base there?
So that is I cooked 2 cups of the brown basmati rice for that.
Okay. And you just do it regular rice. So it was, I think brown basmati is a 2-to-1 water to rice ratio. Yep. You don't do anything. Yeah. Cool.
Yep. And so those are the 3 of the recipes that were have made for tonight. There are a couple of other recipes I wanted to just kind of touch upon, and some of the ingredients that would go with those recipes. So as far as having, let's see, for mashed potatoes, y'all don't need me to watch me making mashed potatoes, so I will skip that. But I did just want to talk about the recipe. It is in the notes here. So rosemary garlic mashed potatoes. I had mashed potatoes growing up, of course, but when I tried this recipe many years ago, this one actually comes from let's see, I think this comes from Angelica's Kitchen in New York City, which unfortunately is no longer open, but they do have a cookbook, and this is from that. So this one is not my recipe, but first time I had that, oh my God, this is so much better than regular mashed potatoes. So really, there's a couple of tricks here. Kind of modified it a little bit to be to not use oil. So one of the things here is you use 1/3 of a cup of peeled garlic cloves, which seems like it would be a lot of garlic, but basically when you're cooking the potatoes, you're putting the garlic cloves in there, and it's just boiling, it's cooking. And then at the end, when you're blending it all together, believe it or not, this is not super strong garlic because it's been cooked. Then and it's being boiled with the water, then it's not going to be super strong garlic, but it has a delicious flavor. And then also using the fresh rosemary makes a huge difference in this one as well. One of the ingredients you'll see that I use here is 1/3 of a cup of cashew cream. That's really just similar to what we were doing with some of the other recipes. Basically, that is cashew cream is basically like a 1-to-1 ratio of water and cashews that have been blended together. So with this one, I would just make a batch of, maybe like half a cup of water and half a cup of cashews together, and then just use a third of a cup for that, and then just save the rest for another recipe or something. And then there's the half a teaspoon of black pepper. So I just wanted to share that. I just love this recipe. I love to make it for Thanksgiving. And it's just, don't be afraid of all that garlic. It's not scary. So there's that.
That does sound really good. I always cannot get enough of the mashed potatoes myself.
Yeah.
There was a question about the broccoli and rice dish, and just kind of finishing that off. What temperature are you going to bake it at, and how long are you going to leave it in the oven?
Let's see. I think it is 350 for 20 minutes or something like that.
That's exactly what I was going to guess. All right.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, no, I don't actually have it on there. So thank you for asking. Yes. So about 350 for 20 minutes should do it. All right. There's that. And then let's see.
I think we get to talk about pies next.
Yes.
But perhaps you have something else up your sleeve too.
No, it's the pies. So
right.
Basically, I just wanted to talk about the base of pies, because there are a couple of whole food, unprocessed pie crusts that I have made that they come out really, really good. And so I just wanted to share those with you just to give you some ideas if you're interested in having a whole food pie crust base. So there's going to be 2 here, and I believe both of these are also in the recipe notes, but we have the chocolate pie crust and then oatmeal cookie crust. So I just wanted to kind of go over these real quickly and talk about some of the ingredients that might be a little harder to find. One thing that I love to use for sweetener is dates. So I have the medjool dates here. These ones are from Trader Joe's, but you get them at Whole Foods. A lot of regular supermarkets you can get the medjool dates at now. You just want to make sure that you take the pits out. Food processor is just going to break them up, and you're going to have really hard bits. And so you just make sure you take the pits out. So 1 cup is going to be about 8 dates here. So there's that. The cacao powder I use in here. So cacao powder gives it a really delicious chocolate flavor. Cacao is really just sort of the less processed version of cocoa powder. So again, trying to use less processed, this is what I prefer. This one is also Trader Joe's, as you can see. No, I do not get paid by Trader Joe's. I wish I did. Trader Joe's, you can pay me in vegetarian burritos. I don't even need money. So cacao powder for the chocolate taste. So, people sometimes will say, chocolate has health properties, It's actually true. It does. But it's the cacao powder that's in the chocolate that has the health properties. So you take something that's healthy and then you add a bunch of sugar and fat to it and you make chocolate, which I love. I love chocolate, but from a health perspective, you can get the same taste and you can have all of the great health properties from it, but without all the sugar and the fat. So there's the cacao powder. And let's see, I also just wanted to mention for a recipe like this, where I have the pie crust, where it's supposed to be a dry recipe, I would want to use vanilla powder instead. If you can just use regular vanilla, I suppose, but I like to use the vanilla powder for this. This one's a little bit harder to find. It's more like Whole Foods would have something like this usually, and it is kind of expensive, but I really only use a little bit of a time. I've had this bottle for months, so there's that. So there's the pie crust for chocolate. So basically, I'm going to put that in the food processor and just kind of blend everything together until it's really well combined, and I'll press that into the bottom of a pie crust pan. So there's that, and then there's the oatmeal cookie crust. You have the ingredients here for that. Really, the main thing I want to point out here is coconut manna. So, you definitely have seen coconut oil and, different forms of that, but coconut manna, this is from Whole Foods. So I usually get this, and usually a couple at a time. They stay fine on the shelf for a long time. Coconut manna is basically like the whole food version of coconut oil. So not like the oil that's been pressed and extracted and it's a processed product. Coconut manna is just creamed coconut. It's just coconut that's been put in a food processor, and it just breaks it down just like you would with peanuts to make peanut butter. It's coconut manna. So that is a great ingredient to use there. And I think everything else in there is just regular ingredients. This one works, the oatmeal cookie crust. This one does work better if you bake it. You use it in the food processor and then you bake it for about 10 minutes, and then you can put in your filling in after that. So I just wanted to quickly go over those and include those in the recipe notes as well if you're interested. So,
and what would you suggest using to fill those? What would you put inside those crusts?
I like to do pumpkin pie. I like to do apple pie. For the chocolate, I love to do the tofu. It's actually using silken tofu. It's the in the cookbook I have the recipe is chocolate mousse cups, but you can just make it as a pie instead of little mousse cups, and just use all the same ingredients, and it's going to come out the same. I make it in little cup forms because it's very, very rich. It's very strong. And if you see a chocolate pie and you come along and you take a big piece, then it's too much. It's too rich. You can't have a giant piece of it. I have a huge sweet tooth and I love the taste of it, but my brain starts to melt if I have too big of a piece of it. So
we actually did the mousse cups in one of these previous sessions too. So people who want to watch and see you make them can actually go back and look through our archives and find that. I was wondering, I think maybe it's in that recipe where you use a little bit of espresso powder, or maybe it's in some of the smoothies that we've talked about. I wonder if you've ever put espresso powder in that chocolate crust.
I haven't put it in the crust because it's usually in the filling, so I've never felt like I've needed it in the crust as well, but could throw a little bit in, just make it a little richer.
Right.
Just a little smaller piece, that's all.
Yeah. So I think this is a great time, and if folks have questions about anything we've looked at tonight, there was one question that came up on the broccoli rice a cheesy casserole, which was they think so. It's just going over the layers one more time. So we had rice, then we had the broccoli, then you put the cheese sauce, and you sprinkled the smoked paprika on top. Was there anything between, is there anything that I'm forgetting?
The pecans.
Pecans, that's it.
Yep.
All right. I missed that. Yum. And you just do raw pecans and they kind of roast on top? Or
That's right.
Roast? Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Evelyn, do you have any questions? Is there any comments that you, or any of the dishes that you're planning on making for the holidays this year?
Oh no, I'm getting mine at the BVS Vegan Thanksgiving. I'm gonna get one to eat on the spot and one to save for Thanksgiving. And nope, I'm taking it easy this year. But
There's
John,
enough stressing us out for sure. That's a good idea too.
Yeah, John, I'm just delighted to see your cat joining us. We got a good close-up view there.
Oh.
It's like a sweetie.
Great. Well, Colin, thank you so much. I'm not seeing a lot of questions
Thank
for
you.
him because I think this has just been, everybody's stomach is probably growling and everybody's very excited. There's been people in the private chat just expressing how much they appreciate you coming and sharing this with you. People who are looking forward to cooking tons of food. So whatever works for
Thank
folks,
you.
I certainly, none of us are looking to pass judgment. As much as you like to cook, as much as you'd like to go and pick up from BVS, as much as you whatever works for you. So hopefully this has given you some tips. I know I got some tips, and I believe inspired some other people that I live with who've been slipping me notes that have been going through that we're very excited about doing these. We've done some of them before and can't wait to do more. So, hey, you were telling me before we started tonight, and I just want to put a plug out there, that the smoothies that taste like Girl Scout cookies is a #1 Amazon bestseller. That was super exciting. So people should hurry up while it's still available and get a copy. So put a little plug in for you there.
Thank you. It's available on Amazon, and both of the print version is $5 and the ebook version is $3.
Wow.
Phyllis,
That's
were you
nice.
raising your hand with a question? No, you're just waving? Okay. Hello, Anne. See you joined us. Hi.
Well, I'm not going to keep everybody. If everybody has been satiated with their questions, I just am so glad that you just spent some time with us tonight. Colin, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you in the kitchen. Wish we could be in person. I wish we could all come and join, share some food together, but we'll be able to do that again soon.
I was going to say, I got all this food now, so who's coming over?
Should be careful what you ask for. I'll be driving up there. That's right.
All right. Thank you, Clayton. Thank you, Evelyn. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you, Colin, and it's great to see people. Have a great Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Take care. Stay safe and have some great food.